For those of you that are new, I often get asked what I do to treat my dog's yeast, how I figure out what he's allergic to, what I feed him, and so much more. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about how I figured out his stressors and his sensitivities, so let's get into it. And if you are interested in knowing what I feed my dog, I will have a video linked above and below on a meal plan that I make for my dog. So as for the sensitivity scan, I have the Pet Wellness Life Stress Scan. And I actually bought this when my dog was a puppy. He was probably about 1.5 years old, give or take. And I avoided just about everything that was a trigger or a sensitivity to him. And his allergies and his yeast and his bumps cleared up for such a long time. It was just a couple months ago, he started getting his bumps back, his yeast in his ears. And I thought maybe it's time to do another scan and see what the difference is and see what types of food we need to avoid. It will detect over 300 food and environmental stressors and triggers. So once you get your results back, it will be in like a PDF format, and it'll have, I'm pretty sure, red and yellow. Like the red is the most extreme and the yellow is what you should avoid. It's kind of like on the line. I'm pretty sure is how it was last time. So with this scan, they use biofeedback to detect the stressors and the sensitivities, not the true allergies. So some people can go to the vet and their vet can put their dog under and do a test that way. I've heard like mixed things about that, but I just opted in for this because I've done it once before. I followed all the recommendations and it really helped my dog a lot. The stressors can change due to overexposure, environment, and time. Before I show you what's in the box and demonstrate doing the test on my dog, I wanted to give you the price breakdown. For the US, it is $129.95 and you will get your results within 14 business days. I opted in for the faster results, which is $149.95 expedited, and then you get your results back within 2 business days. Like I said, my dog's allergies and his bumps are really bad right now. So I'm very desperate to get some answers and start avoiding some of the things that may be triggering him. So what comes in the box is the first thing is this informational packet. This company also sells supplements and things like that that may help your dog. Last time anyways, they actually put on, I think the last page, some of their supplements that may help your dog with the issues that they're experiencing. It also comes with the instructions. It just tells you everything that you need to do, what you need to fill out, and then you scan this to get the label to send it back to them. This form is just the agreement form, and then on the back of this form, it just has you put all of your information. I don't know if you can see that. Just your name, your address, your email address, your pet's name, date of birth, breed, male or female, birthplace, and the diet that you are currently feeding them. And then this is where the test comes into play. So you have this bag with everything in it. And then once you're done, you put the bag back in here. So this is already a little different than last time. Last time they gave us a comb to comb off the dog's hair to grab, but I was reading the instructions and it just says to cut off your dog's hair. And then it has 3 cotton swabs in here, and you just want to make sure you don't touch the ends of the cotton swabs with your fingers, and you just get the saliva from their mouth. And actually this gray dot right here shows you the amount of hair that you need to cut off of your dog to place into the bag. I am just going to swab my dog's cheek. It says to hold all 3 cotton swabs together by one end and thoroughly rub the ends along the gum line and cheek of your pet. Do not touch the saliva end. Do not substitute your own swabs. Use the swabs that come in here and then put them directly back into this bag and make sure you don't touch them. I am going to swab my dog's cheek and mouth and show you how it looks. And then I'm going to put them back in the bag and I'm going to mail this off. And in about, let's say a week, my time, we will have the results and I will show you what his triggers are. It'll be a week my time, and in your time, it'll be right about now. Okay, there we go, good. His hair is short. I'm afraid I'm gonna cut him. I'm just too scared. Oh, can you do it? I really am too scared I'm gonna cut him. Okay, we got his cotton swabs and his hair in the bag, so we're gonna send it off and we will let you know what the results are. I am back and we have Duke's results. I actually got his results a day after they received them, and it's probably been about 3 or 4 weeks, give or take, since I got the results. I kind of wanted to avoid some of the triggers to see kind of how he does, and I'm happy to say he's doing great. His skin is so much better. He doesn't have any yeast in his ears, so fingers crossed that we can continue down this good path. I just wanted to show you really quickly what the results will look like once you get them, and I wanted to compare his results from this year, compare them to 2019, just to kind of see the difference. There are some minor differences, but other than that, he's still allergic to a lot of things. So let's jump into that and see kind of what he's allergic to or sensitive to or triggers him this year as of right now. So this is the first page, and everything in yellow. So areas highlighted in yellow are current imbalances that may require help to eliminate. So virus, bacteria, yeast, emotions, inflammation, pain, mold, and thyroid. And like I said, his one from 2019, it triggered, or the thyroid was also an imbalance, and it was kind of the same time that I actually got his thyroid tested. So that was interesting. And then over here, it shows the products from the company that they suggest that could possibly help. And I am actually thinking about getting some products. I just wanted to avoid some of the food to see what helped him before I continue down any type of supplements or anything like that. So on the second page, it will show you the proteins, the vegetables, the fruits, the nuts, the seeds, the spices, and other miscellaneous items. So my main thing that I wanted to look at was the proteins. So he's still okay to eat beef. One of the things that was alarming to me was elk, because before he wasn't sensitive to elk, but he was allergic to turkey and chicken. And so I was feeding him just elk and deer. And so I actually took away the elk, and I'm only feeding him beef right now. And then all of his bumps went away, and now his hair is growing back. So I don't know if it's a coincidence or if it really was just the elk that was bothering him, but now we're doing great. He's also sensitive to lamb, pork, and everything else as far as the proteins he can have, which is so interesting to me because I used to always stay away from chicken and turkey, where now he can have it. I'm slowly adding that into his diet just to make sure that nothing really triggers him. I don't really give him any beans. I used to give him chickpeas, so this section doesn't do a whole lot for me just because I stay away from beans anyways. The vegetables is something that was very helpful. I usually just give him a blend of like broccoli, spinach. I usually stay away from sweet potatoes, but it's usually broccoli and spinach, sometimes kale. And he actually the broccoli was red, beets, sweet potatoes, tomatoes, turnips, eggplant, lettuce, mushrooms, and potatoes. For 2 weeks, maybe it was longer than 2 weeks, I actually just wasn't giving him any vegetables because I didn't want that to trigger anything. And as far as fish, I still am staying away from all fish. The salmon, sardines, shellfish, cod, all of that I'm just staying away from because he still is sensitive to that. Another thing that was very interesting was grain. Literally all of them were red, which is what is in most kibble, or all kibbles. There's some type of grain, and then a lot of like homemade dog treats have certain types of grains, whether it be like oats or quinoa or wheat or things like that, is in a lot of like the homemade dog treat type cookies. So if I do buy a dog treat, I'm just getting like freeze-dried beef liver or beef heart or things like that, just to make sure we are staying away from all the grains. Another thing was the milks and the dairies. So he can have goat milk and sheep milk, but everything else stay away from. He can have most fruits. It's just raspberries that we need to stay away from. He doesn't eat a ton of fruit. Sometimes him and I will share like an apple or something like that. But other than that, he doesn't eat a ton of fruits. I don't really feed him nuts or seeds. I mean, maybe like some peanuts or an almond or something, just here and there if I'm eating a trail mix, but nothing super concerning. Glucosamine is another thing, and a lot of glucosamine has certain types of shellfish in it too. So I don't know if those pair together or just like glucosamine, everything in general. So that's also hard for us because Duke also has joint issues, and they say like glucosamine and things like that help, but obviously I just need to try and stay away from it. So I kind of have to find an alternative item. He can have all of these spices, which is great. So I actually made him a dog treat that has beef liver, ground beef, turmeric, and one other thing in it, just to kind of help him since he can have spices to help with the inflammation. And then the other miscellaneous items like the baker's yeast and the beet pulp and gluten and honey, that was a little interesting to me because I was like, oh, he has allergies, let me give him local honey and bee pollen, but now I'm staying away from that just to make sure that I don't trigger him at all. But then obviously there's the toxic foods such as beer, chocolate, grapes, leeks, onions, wine, and xylitol. So we stay away from those anyways. So this next page is something that helps, but there's not a whole ton I can do about it. So these are just chemicals that obviously they should stay away from to begin with. And then like the insects, the flowers, the grasses, the trees, the pollens, and the dust, there's honestly not much I can do about it. I have an air purifier in my house, like I said, but other than that, I can't just go like rip out the trees next door to me or anything like that. We have grass on the side of our house, but he's not really out there a whole ton. But as far as the grasses, it's red top and goldenrod. I don't know what kind of grass we have. It's just a whole bunch of weeds. So, and then obviously for the dust, it's airborne dust, carpet and upholstery dust, and flock dust. So I can't do a whole bunch about that, but just to make sure I have my air purifier on and vacuum a lot. So that is it for his current situation of the one we did this year in 2022. So I just kind of wanted to show the one from 2019. Virus, yeast, emotions, inflammation, pain, parasites, and thyroid. So if we kind of compare that to this year, so if we compare those two to this year he had bacteria, and in 2019 that wasn't a huge thing. This year he didn't have parasites, but in 2019 it was showing parasites. In 2019 it didn't show mold, but this year it did, which was alarming for me. And then basically everything else was the same as far as that goes. Now on to the food for 2019. You can see over here, he can have the elk and the beef and everything else. He just couldn't have the pork and the ham. But for poultry, he couldn't have chicken and turkey, where this year he can. So that's why I'm slowly adding it in. He also couldn't have the cod, salmon, and shellfish. But at the time he could have sardines. So I would give him sardines every once in a while, but now we're just staying totally away from that. As well as salmon oil, which is in a lot of pre-made raw food, salmon oil or just any type of salmon. So I kind of have to really read labels when I feed him. So before, in 2019, we had to stay away from the squashes and the sweet potatoes, zucchini, celery, cabbage, beets, pumpkins, potatoes. And in 2019, he also couldn't have like goat's milk and any type of dairy milk, cheese, cottage, yogurt, things like that. So I used to always give him like fermented goat's milk, but then I started staying away from it after I got this. So I think I'm just going to kind of avoid dairy as much as I can. Obviously here and there he might have it, but just as much as I can, I'm going to avoid it. And for the nuts and seeds, one other thing was sunflower seed and oil, which I had completely forgotten about that. So in one of his beef recipes, it actually called for sunflower oil, which I gave him. It was honestly the tiniest amount, so I can't see it doing that much harm, but that was alarming to me as well. And then on the grains, there were some grains before that he can have, such as quinoa, which I used to give him quinoa quite often, but now we're just staying away from all of the grains. And before, he couldn't have turmeric, and I remember being so bummed about that because I know how good it is to help fight inflammation, but now he can, so we are back to giving that. And then down here, it's just the environmental chemicals and the flowers and the grasses and the trees and the pollens, where before you can see it triggered a whole bunch of grasses, where now this year he is only triggering 2. And it's interesting, in 2019, the dust for the airborne and the carpet and upholstery wasn't a trigger, but this year it is. So that was very interesting to me. So that is it for Duke's results. I just wanted to show you a quick rundown of what it would look like if you were to do this test on your dog and see what it comes back as. I highly recommend just avoiding everything on here so that way you can really pinpoint what might be triggering your dog. As far as supplements, I like to just stay away from the foods that are triggering him for a couple weeks and then slowly add in supplements. If you add in so many at one time, you may not be able to pinpoint which supplement might be bothering them or not working, things like that. So I always just like to slowly add them in so that way I can see what's working or what may not be working. So it is currently September 9th when I'm recording this, and as of right now, Duke is doing really good. He doesn't have any bumps, his ears aren't bad, his hair has grown back from the patches that he lost, and he's doing really good. So I'm hoping it stays that way. Sometimes he has flare-ups every now and again, but then it goes away. So I don't know if this was just a summertime thing or if it really was some of the things that he was sensitive to that were triggering him that we took out. So we are just going to keep on doing the same thing we're doing so that way he can stay happy and healthy. I hope you found this video helpful and it may help you and your pet figure out what they might be sensitive to. I will have the link in the description and a discount code if you want to get this test for your dog. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below or shoot me a DM on Instagram. And we'll see you next time.